Thank you. I'd like to call the Architecture Review Committee meeting of Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Member Thompson? Member McDonald? Here. Member Baston? Here. And Chair O'Donnell?
Here.
You have a quorum. The others, Member Thomas, Member Walsh, and Member Castro are not going to be here. They are excused for tonight. And I believe we've announced earlier that Member Harlan has resigned because he has too many things on his plate. So you do have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lyon. A report of the posting of the agenda, please.
The agenda for this meeting was made available for public access at the City Hall exterior bulletin board on the west side of the council chamber and at the planning services counter at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025.
All right, thank you. Acceptance of the agenda. The Architectural Review Committee will discuss the order of the agenda and may amend the order, note abstentions, requests, consent calendar items be removed from the consent calendar for discussion. It is a pretty light meeting with nothing on the consent calendar, so do we need a motion to accept the agenda?
Yes, please.
All right, I will make a motion to accept the agenda. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, public comments at this time. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Architectural Review Committee on the consent calendar and other agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Although the Architectural Review Committee values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes would be assigned for each speaker. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
There are some people here in the Zoom waiting room. Sir, were you going to speak on today's item? Did you want to speak during public comment or during the item that's on the agenda?
He's the applicant.
You're the applicant, right?
Yes.
So you'll be speaking at the time of the item? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Mr. Tyson, would you like to speak? If you're speaking on a specific item, you can speak at that time. Is that correct?
He can speak at either.
Yep. Okay. And the online folks?
I'm going to, we'll hear Frank first, and then I'll ask for any hands to be raised, and we'll pull the online people in as they choose to speak.
I think Mr. Tyson was going to wait until the item.
Oh, he's going to wait. All right. Is there anybody who's in the Zoom waiting room who would like to speak this evening during public comment? Please raise your hand. We're not seeing anybody here in the Zoom waiting room, so it appears there are no other speakers for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. All right. Consent calendar. The following routine matters may be accepted upon by one motion. Individual items may be removed by the commission for separate discussion at this time. Seeing no items on the consent calendar, we will move on to approval of the minutes.
Actually, yes, I was going to say the minutes are on the consent agenda, so you can cover that one item.
All right. So on the consent calendar is approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
Excluded from the consent calendar, unfinished business, there's none. New business. So we're moving on to item 3A, a request by Palm Springs Canyon Development LLC owner for a major architectural application to construct a 739,360 square foot warehouse building located at the northwest corner of North Indian Canyon Drive and 19th Avenue. Case number 3.4361. And it is a major application. Glenn Malacher, could we please have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. So as you mentioned, this request is for a new warehouse building at the north end of town. No, why isn't this working? Sorry, technical difficulties.
It's all right.
Can we have somebody from the TV station come here? Bear with us.
All right.
Just give me a second.
It only takes to push a button to turn it off. All right, he had to get back into the TV station. All right, so this is an application for a large warehouse fulfillment center located at the north end of town at the corner of North Indian Canyon Drive and 19th Avenue. And looking at this plan that's before you, the yellow box is the site location. So it's north of the 10 in an area that is zoned M2, which by right allows warehouses and these types of fulfillment centers, and the general plan is industrial. So you'll notice that the area around the site is vacant and has other sort of wind energy and other types of warehouse buildings in the general vicinity. On the east side of North Indian Canyon is Desert Hot Springs, which is here, and the city is on the west side of North Indian Canyon. So the proposal is 38 acres. The one building will be 739,000 square feet of warehouse space, and then also 12,000 square feet of office space within the building. The setbacks for the building vary from 62 feet to 150 feet to the east and 312 feet to on the sides. And the building height is 50 feet, which is allowed in this M2 zoning for these large warehouse buildings. Previously, the Planning Commission City Council reviewed the project. The Planning Commission approved a major development permit, which set the entitlements, which set the site plan, the circulation, and they also certified an environmental impact report, which was reviewed extensively. They also did a statement of overriding considerations and also a mitigation monitoring program. And the ARC will not review that tonight. You are here tonight to review the building architecture, the design, the colors, and then the landscaping. The project was appealed to City Council, and at that council meeting, they approved the project. And also, they had a recommendation that the ARC review the building color scheme so that it blends into the surroundings. So what you're going to see today is the original color scheme that the Planning Commission saw and that the City Council saw. The applicant would like to keep the color scheme as proposed, but the ARC may review it and tell us what you think. So the Planning Commission, when they reviewed and approved the project, they made three recommendations. One was that the landscape plan be reviewed with special emphasis on shade tree types and the ability of the landscaping to survive the harsh wind elements that are in that area. As you know, that area, that's why there's wind turbines. It's very windy, and plants have to be fairly large to survive the winds up there. And also, they wanted to provide an outdoor shaded employee break area and a location for food trucks to be parked in the parking lot. And there's an exhibit that will go over that in just a minute as to where that's located. And then, as I mentioned, the city council had their color scheme, and this is in the issues section of the staff report. So looking at the site plan, the building is located in the center of the site. Parking for the employees that will work within the building is located on the east side off of Indian Canyon. The parking that's required is met. There could be up to 700 employees working in this building at one time, and that's why there's extensive parking throughout the eastern side. And then the north and south side are where trucks will park, here to the north and to the south, and then the loading docks are on either ends of the building. So looking at site access, when you're coming north on Indian Canyon Drive, there'll be a new stoplight that will be added here at 19th Avenue and Indian Canyon, and this is a full movement intersection. There's another drive break here that there's a median that we put in the middle of Indian Canyon, so you cannot make a right turn in, but if you're coming from Desert Hot Springs, you can make a left turn in. And then there's another full entrance here for employees midway on the site, and then there's another entrance and exit at the north end of the site. So the main truck route for the site is for trucks to come off of the I-10, go north on Indian Canyon, make a left on 19th Avenue, and then enter the site here farther down 19th Avenue. This is a gated entrance, and the whole site will have a block wall around it. In your package, there's a grading plan. The site is fairly flat. There's not much grading that has to occur, although the site does slope from north to south, and there are water retention basins that are along 19th Avenue here. The roof plan shows the extensive use of skylights in the building to get light into the building itself. And any place where there's not a skylight, there will be a solar panel. One of the settlement agreements with the Sierra Club was that they maximize as much space as they possibly can to add solar panels to the roof. And they're also providing battery storage to store the energy when the sun sets. There's a photometric plan that shows the lighting standards. I know this is very difficult to see. It's in your package, and you may be able to zoom it in on your pads, but it does meet the lighting standards. So there'll be lights that will be in the parking lot that meets our light standards, and lights along the building itself. And these lights, the cut sheets are in your package, and they're all cut off and will not spill out beyond the perimeter of the lot. A utility plan is also included. They will be connecting to Mission Springs water and Mission Springs sewer, and that's what this plan is showing, how those connections will occur. Moving on to the building itself, this is a perspective of the building. As I mentioned, it's 2 stories or 50 feet. At the ends, this is the south end here, and the north end is a mirror image of it. It shows the office space that will be in the building itself, or at these 2 corners. It shows an aluminum storefront glass system that sort of provides a entrance area so that folks know where to enter the building itself. In this site plan or a building elevation, it also shows bump outs that are along the front to break up the massing of the building. They include solar control with these white boxes around the windows itself. Moving on to materials, you'll see that these are a stucco, I'm sorry, the building is a tilt-up concrete. The main body of the building is City Loft, which is a light gray, and then there's other accents in a darker gray, and then accent panels, which are in this Bengal grass, which is sort of a greenish color, and then white trim. There's also ribbed concrete that is in the building, and stone accents, which are located at the entrances to the office section. This is another close-up. You'll notice that the windows are recessed to provide some solar control and interest with these boxes that are around the windows itself, the green accents, and then the stone, and then the storefront glass. This is the very back corner of the building. You'll notice it shows the pull-up window or doors for the trucks. There is glass windows on the top second floor of the building. This is to provide light into the building. As you know, it's a very large building. Along with the skylights on the roof, it will provide sufficient lighting inside. There are building elevations showing building height at 50 feet. And once again, the glass that is on the windows that are on the second floor, the pull-in doors, and then the front elevation itself. Moving on to the landscape plan, the front portion of the building where the employees will park is fully landscaped and meets our parking lot shading requirement. In the report, it talks about the different types of plants. Let me get to that in just a minute. So they're providing palm trees, ground cover, palo verde, thornless honey mesquite, date palms, shrubs, and accent plantings, including lantana, firecracker plants, various agave, cactus, yucca, and aloe. They're using fractured rock and decomposed granite for ground cover. The retention basin is located at the south side that I mentioned here. And I have a close-up of the landscape plan, which is sort of typical throughout the site. So you'll notice that there are trees that'll be lined along North Indian Canyon, which if you've driven up that way and been out to the site, there's not many trees along the frontage, but this site plan will add that. And then all the different ground cover plantings here in the median islands. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission asked them to provide a covered employee break area. That's located here. This is where employees could go for a break and sit outside, and also a food truck parking spot, which is adjacent to the employee break area. So this is the entrance to the south entrance to the building, and this will be very active and used by the employees. Looking at some existing conditions, this is looking west on the corner of North Indian Canyon and 19th Avenue. So street improvements will include curb and gutter along both streets, sidewalks, and right now on the south side of 19th, half of the street is built, so they'll be adding another half street here.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a
Oh yeah, go ahead. In looking at some perspectives, this is the view from the bridge on the I-10 looking north along Indian Canyon Drive, and you can see the building here in the background. It sort of blends in. This is coming down North Indian Canyon Drive towards I-10. This is the building here. And then one more view, as you get closer, this is the intersection of Coachella and North Indian Canyon. This is the building as it would look. So as I mentioned, the north side of the building will be mirrored as the south side, and there's office space within this portion of the building here. That concludes my report. Chair and staff is recommending approval. I will mention that you did receive 2 letters from the public that was sent to the committee for your information. So the applicant is here with his architect, and I can answer any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Malacher. Any questions of staff?
Turn the mic on.
It says mic on. There you go.
Just a question about lots of parking. Is there EV parking?
I'm sorry, what parking?
EV? Any-
Yes, there is, let me get to the parking section. So there's 312 spaces, 420 are provided.
312 required?
No, there's 312 are provided. They are providing 420 spaces, 11 spaces handicap, so 737 spaces. And there is proposed spaces for low-emitting vehicles and EV charging stations. So some of the mitigation measures in the environmental document required them to have a program that offered ride sharing and EV parking for people to plug in, and also telework. So those were all kind of measures. I'm not sure exactly, and the applicant may be able to tell us where in the site plan they're located. They're probably on this plan, but it's so small we can't really see them. Right.
Just to stay efficient, we'll take all those together. So, any other questions for staff, and then any for the applicant, we'll bring those up again. Yep.
Hey Glenn, the employee break area, I know it's covered, but is it blocked from seeing Indian Canyon?
We don't have a detail of it if it's just like a shade cover, but when you mean block from Indian Canyon. You most likely would. Right, and the thing about this is it's located right here, which is on the east side of the building, so the wind usually comes west to east, so it should be an area that is a little bit not as windy as if it was on the other side of the building.
I have a question. On the plan that's keyed out, on the landscape plan, it says, I think I caught you say that around that on the 19th Avenue frontage that's a CMU block retaining wall with an 8-foot metal chain link fence. Is that still the case?
No, it's chain link fence during construction and then a block wall when it's permanent.
So it'll be an 8-foot block wall?
Yes.
Okay. And then the same, then on number 8, then metal chain link fence for the perimeter on the two back sides?
No, my understanding is that it's block wall all around.
Okay, so it just says, yeah, metal chain link fence, so I thought it was
Which plan are you looking at?
the overall plan, the landscape.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. We'll have the applicant clarify that.
Okay. Yeah, the rest of the questions I can ask.
Any more questions of staff? Mr. Mlucker, can you pull up the overall site plan so we can see the site in the context? Yeah, no, keep going to the zoomed out one. Where's the city limits?
All right, so the city limits come up North Indian Canyon. So the west side is the city limits, the east side is Desert Hot Springs, and right here at 18th Avenue, the city limit cuts over and then goes up to Dillon and then over.
Okay.
So this area here, which is a mobile home park, and these are both mobile home parks, those are not in the city limits.
Okay. And do you know of any similar developments going on in the adjacent Cathedral City of similar scale size?
Yes, there's an Amazon warehouse being constructed. You can see it now. It's up. That's kind of right in this location here.
And do you have the square footage of that?
That is around the same size.
Okay.
At one point, it was 3 million square feet, but it's been reduced significantly.
Can you tell us a little bit about the engineering hydrology for this site and maybe just go to the roof plan, site plan?
So the site slopes, as you can, well, you can't really see, it goes west to east. It slopes this way. So we have another warehouse development that's proposed that wraps around this site. So all their water will be contained, and then their water drains to this water retention on the south side of the parcel.
And is city engineering taking a look at that? And is there enough retention area for the impervious area that's planned here?
Yes, it's gone through extensive review and plan check through the engineering department.
Can you go to the site plan? I guess it's a technical site plan.
One.
So that green area in there has enough detention area for that impervious roof in the parking lot?
There are other underground retention areas, and the applicant may want to talk about that, but it's not just this right here.
Okay.
There are underground facilities on this south side.
Okay. And so you were saying that this is the first large building we're seeing of this scale, so
Yes,
when we want to know how does a fulfillment center work, we ask the applicant.
Yes, there was extensive discussion of that in Planning Commission and Council, 3 and 4 hour discussion on it.
Yeah. Okay. I think some of that is pertinent for us just to kind of wrap our heads around the massing, the colors, how the thing's going to be used, how it's used in the future. Any other questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, would it be time for the applicant or would it be time for the public to come up? The applicant. They have 10 minutes or as much time as they need. Would the applicants like to make a presentation? Welcome.
How are you?
Great, thank you.
My name is David Snyder. I'm the developer, and this is Eric Nemiziak. He's with Ware Malcolm, who are the architects. Glenn basically went through the plan quite extensively. The only clarifications I think we could make would be that we have a chain link fence on the west side of the property, and also a chain link fence on the north side of the property. And then there is, on the south side of the property where the tractor trailer parking is, we have a block wall that's 8 feet high. And then along the other areas, just to the south, at the southwest corner of the building, there is an 8-foot high block wall there. And at the at the southeast corner of the building, there's a chain link, or a block wall that is there to shield the tractor trailer area of the parking lot and where they are loading and unloading. And then also on the northeast corner of the building, the same thing. There's an 8-foot high block wall. I think there was some confusion about where there is chain link and where there is block wall. So that's that. In terms of where the building is going to be used as either a fulfillment center or a warehouse, and that involves a certain amount of truck traffic, and the expectation is that there should be about 700 employees that come there every day. It could be 1,000. It could be, I don't think it should be less than 700, but the traffic and circulation for both has been quite well thought out. There is not expected to be any, and not allowed to be any trailer massing or trailer parking or queuing on 19th Avenue. They can do it on site, and then there will be a one-stop guard gate there that you see over at the southwest corner of the property. and each tractor trailer will pass through that guard gate and either go immediately to the right or go along the western portion of the building up into the northern portion of the building for loading and unloading. If you'd, I mean, I think Glenn did a very good job of addressing the issues of the colors of the building. I think when we came here, and if you have any questions of the architect, he's the one here, but I can tell you that when we initially started, from the day we got here, the staff made it clear to us that this can't be a regular warehouse building. We have to really up our game as it relates to the aesthetics of the building, which where Malcolm, I think, has done a very good job. There's natural stone on there, and then the colors are really meant to blend in. And I think if you look either from the top of the bridge over on Indian Canyon and on the I-10, the building is a big building, but you really don't see it that much, as opposed to, like, you go see that Amazon. That Amazon sticks out because there's nothing else hiding it. Now, I don't know what Desert Hot Springs made them do in terms of landscaping, but I mean, we have really gone quite heavy on the landscaping here, and everything is drought resistant and wind resistant. And so the whole idea really was to have a exceptionally good looking building aesthetically, and then also to over landscape it so that we can provide shade, and I think we've exceeded all of the codes that have been asked of us by the team at the city. And if you have any other questions about the aesthetics of the building, Eric will be happy to answer them. And I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have of me, but Glenn did a very good job, a thorough job of describing the property.
You want to talk about the operation?
The operation, the operation of the project is that there's going to be 700 employees, and I forget how many truck trips a day are expected, but it'll be a warehouse, whether it's a fulfillment center or a regular warehouse. They basically operate the same. There's product in there. There's a combination of warehouse jobs and office jobs. The office jobs are generally logistics people and engineers who sort of operate the building as a place where product is brought, and there's really generally not assembly or anything done in these, but it's brought and then stored there and out to the ultimate user. And that would be the case for both a fulfillment center and a warehouse, a storage warehouse.
A little bit more. So in general, in warehouses and fulfillment centers, these are facilities that are designed around efficiency. So inside these warehouses, the reason for the tall height is tall racks, rows of racks, where product is brought in, it is offloaded off of the trucks. The idea is to get truck traffic efficiently off of the street into the site and able to move around very, very quickly. So that's the reason for the large yards, is that a truck can come in, make single point turns, backing against the building, product offloaded, and then they leave. So within the buildings, the operation is when the product comes in, forklifts take it out into that first bay of the building, sort it out, and it's taken into the racks by forklifts. Those are lifted up very, very high into certain areas, and typically one side of the building is the receiving side, the other side is the shipping side. So as product is purchased, the office areas may be where a lot of that, the staff that handle purchasing, sales, customer service, that kind of stuff, is in the office areas. That gets fed to the warehouse. Product is retrieved again from those racks and sent out to trucks that have been ordered to pick up those products, and then they come out of those yards very quickly. So a couple other things that are really key for fulfillment centers is to separate that truck traffic from regular automobile vehicular traffic. And we think we've done a good job of that on this site. We had the opportunity to load in from the rear of the site and not mix as much, which allows for more efficiency of those trucks. And it also allows us to really accentuate the user experience when you're looking at this facade from Indian Canyon. These buildings are very tall because of the nature of what's in them, and so we wanted to try to break down that facade into smaller components, make it a little bit more palatable at a human scale, and then also to, in terms of the color scheme, a neutral gray, warm gray tone that is complementary with the surroundings, a little bit of a modern accent color that also still kind of blends in and is complementary with the landscape palette that's natural to the area. And then in some key areas where more people are going to be entering the offices, we've added a stone element to kind of soften it even further. So that's a little bit about the fulfillment center, the use of it, and how people interact with this building.
Any immediate questions of the applicant, and then we'll bring up any public comments. And you get another chance to ask questions afterwards. So.
Pardon me, I've gotten several texts from people who are online, and they said they can't, they're looking at a blank screen, and they can't hear, just FYI. So, anyway.
I have a couple of questions. Is the landscape architect here, or?
No.
Okay. On along 19th Avenue, that's I'm sorry, along Indian Canyon. In the perspective, it's basically just rows of cars, the front ends of cars. I kind of have an issue with that. That's not a pleasant thing to look at.
So they'll be required to build a 4.5-foot tall wall along Indian Canyon.
Okay.
That's a zone code requirement. So anytime there's parking that faces a street, they'll need to do a low wall to shield or screen the parking spaces from the street.
Okay, so that's covered.
So it doesn't show here because the plan is so big, but when it goes through plan check, we'll make sure that that wall is added to the plans. So there'll be a sidewalk and, in theory, a little landscape strip for something, then the screen wall, and then 2 feet for the car bumper overhang,
Bumper, yeah.
and then the parking space.
On the landscape plan overall, the wind thing up there is intense, and I think there's a couple of trees that may have some issues, on the plan, and one of them would be the Acacia salicina, and then the other one would be actually the Parkinsonia. The Prosopis does pretty well up there. Actually seems to handle it pretty well. So I'm thinking it would be kind of nice to have another option on those 2 parking lot trees.
I don't think we are married to those, but so if you want to suggest one, and we can clear that with the landscape architect, we'd be happy to do that. Can you tell me the exact name of the tree you're talking about that you like better than what we have?
Well, I think for the Acacia salicina, you should maybe use a Casuarina aquisitiformis, or a Cunninghamiana. Those are really, really do really well in really high velocity wind zones.
The only, I do know, and I'm, the choice of trees, as it, because the wind is really a prevailing westerly to easterly direction, they're sort of behind that building, so they're going to be quite shielded.
That doesn't work.
Doesn't work?
No.
Okay.
Because if you drive around that area, you'll see the palm trees are literally blasted to one side, the Mexican fan palms. And then the date palms have work a little bit better. I think those are okay. But the acacia salicinas are just going to go away. And then the Palo Verdes literally can't handle that kind of velocity.
Okay, we'll switch those out, and if you'd like to make those a condition of your approval, that'd be fine with us.
Sure. And then on the retention basin in the front, that wall that blocks, those are supposed to block, trailers, right? Yeah, park trailers.
CMU block wall.
Yeah, that's supposed to, yeah. Isn't a trailer pretty tall?
Yeah, usually 14 feet, so.
Yeah, so
partially blocks them.
I'm kind of thinking, what would 8 feet do?
I mean,
Because, I mean, unless you beef up the landscaping on that side, on the wall, or make the wall higher or something, because it's really, 8 feet on 14.
Right, well, the maximum height in the zone is 8 feet.
They can't make any, can't be any higher.
There would be an administrative process to increase it a few feet, but it wouldn't screen the total
Okay.
height of the
I
trailer.
think what we could beef up some landscaping along that wall.
Yes.
Which would eventually be trees that would grow higher than the 8 feet.
Exactly, that would
What
be.
trees would you suggest?
Well, I think you could probably put more of the prosopis in there.
Okay.
Yeah, more of the prosopis. I went over to the other side of the pass, and I looked at a bunch of warehousing situations just like this. And they're really, really nice. I mean, like the Skechers, the Skechers warehouse is enormous, but
A million square feet.
but it's amazingly large. But the landscaping and the fountains in the front, the reflecting pools, everything it was absolutely gorgeous. And so I was noticing things, just kind of comparing and contrasting what we have here. And I think the landscape's fine. It's just that we just have to, maybe condition some of those choices on some of the trees and things like that. But also, I was just looking at and this may seem minor, but the employee area outside, there's only like room for like 20, there's like three tables it's really small. Is that big enough for 700 people?
Well, there's interior areas too. This is really just for people who want to be outside, which, I don't know the answer to that, whether it's, we chose the size of the outdoor area, and we did it it was an afterthought. It's a suggestion of the Planning Commission. We could, I think we thought that was enough for outside. And I think they put the tables in there really just to show, but that is not, that's just an area. And they may or may not have tables in there. They may have some other kind of configuration, but we showed the tables in there.
So, but there's going to be shade there for them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it an awning or what is it?
Yeah, it would probably be its own structure.
I mean, to do it, you want to do it, I think probably everybody thinks the right idea is to do it on the east side of the building.
Oh, no, I agree. I think it's in a good spot. It'd just be nice if it was larger.
I mean, the problem is you take away from parking that is right up and close against the building. So I do think that if it turns out that we need more, then we would come back to this, if it's needed, we would come back to the city and say, okay, we want to get rid of a couple of those parking spaces. But we thought for now we would start out with that size.
Okay, that's that seems reasonable. And one other, one other point is that on the landscape, on the outside border to the north and to the west, so there's nothing in that, there's no trees, nothing anywhere in there.
Yeah, within truck trailer yards, things can get destroyed by trucks backing up.
Yeah.
So we like to keep it minimal and low.
And the same for the truck traffic cartway on the west side of the building.
No, I agree with that.
I mean, the idea is that it was out of the, out of the, it's not on any road.
Okay. No, I think it's a great looking building, and then having the wall to screen the cars. We just have to make sure that frontage is, planted pretty heavily. It's kind of hard to tell from the landscape plan, under the tree canopy, what actually is going on in there. So, as long as there's a wall there and then at least, some planting there, I think that'll be fine.
Okay, we're happy to do that.
I just want to make sure, David and Eric, do you understand the trees that he's recommending? Because I'm a layperson and I don't know them by their scientific names.
Well, you were saying them by their Latin name. Can you say them by their
The she oak,
how do you spell it?
SHEOAK. It's a Australian native.
And you're thinking that should go where which
In the place of the Acacia salicina.
Okay, and then the other one?
I think the Prosopis glandulosa does well up there, so I think you could probably bump that up. And then I'm trying to think of what else you could use that would be, a large canopy tree that would be able to take the wind.
Are you talking about on the south side?
Well, the Parkinsonia is kind of you're using two trees in the parking lot, the Parkinsonia and the Prosopis glandulosa. So we just have to figure out some other tree other than the Palo Verde that'll stand up to the wind. That's a big canopy tree that'll give the shade that's required. That's always a sticking point in where this place is.
And so wherever we have a Palo Verde, replace it with what?
Well, wherever you have an Acacia salicina, replace that with a she oak.
Yes, I got that.
Yeah. And then, so the Parkinsonia, maybe give me some time to think about it. Maybe at
Sure.
the end of the meeting, I'll come back around. And
That's
I'll try-
fine. You
try
could
to
let
figure
Glenn know. We're open to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make it a condition of the approval of the Architectural Review Board that we consult with staff, we're okay with that.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Member McDonald. Any other questions of the applicant? Yes, Member Thompson.
Back to the employee outside area, I know that's gonna be a covered structure. Is there anything that's gonna kind of landscape-wise that's gonna kind of block their view of the cars or make it a little more intimate or private or more aesthetic looking than just picnic tables out in a parking lot?
We really, I would say we haven't thought about it as much as, because we did get it from the Planning Commission as a condition of their approval, and we thought it was a good idea. And as Eric said, we've got its own structure planned there. But I don't know whether we've thought about landscaping around it, but I think it's a good idea. It'll make it nicer. So we'll put some kind of appropriate desert drought-resistant landscaping around the outdoor employee eating area.
Member Baston, any questions?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the EV question.
Yes, I got an I didn't know off the top of my head, but I got you an answer. We exceed the green initiative requirements of the state of California, but in our discussions with the Sierra Club, we agreed to 38 EV stations.
It's just,
I don't think it's been determined of where, but we've agreed to do them.
it's a very big building, and you can take advantage of solar panels as well. Have you thought of that all over? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a, I mean, our agreement with the Sierra Club requires us to put solar really on a large portion of the, I mean, where there are not, where it's not otherwise blocked by HVAC equipment or skylights. So that building will have a ton of solar on it, and it will far exceed most likely, it'll exceed the power needed by the tenant. And so and again, we agreed with the Planning Commission to offload that power as in the most efficient way we can.
I got a couple of questions. It looks like there's about a 30-foot grade change from the north side to the south side. How's that being handled?
Well, maybe Eric could speak to the grade, but and I don't know whether the site ended up balancing or not. I can't remember. But I mean, you are correct that it is a grade, and you would never know it by looking at it, and if you look at the picture, the picture, you wouldn't know it. But so it's a little deceiving. But what is the grade of the parking lot going north to south? Do you know?
I don't offhand if we could look at it, but you'll notice that there's actually grade elevation markers on the building plan itself. It's because these buildings, oftentimes they're so large, in order to reduce the amount of earthwork that we have to do, we slope the building up to 0.5%. So the whole building is tilted, and that's structurally accounted for. It helps a lot with the grading and earthwork. So that makes up for a good amount of the slope. And then we're obviously running all of our drainage to the south as well.
Yeah, the plan indicates 0.6% slope in the building. But I'm more interested in what does the extreme northern portion look like and what does the extreme southern portion look like if this is a relatively benched site. In other words, if the parking is relatively flat, the building's relatively flat, and we've got 30 feet of grade change, which gets to what's visible from the public way. So if I'm on 19th Avenue looking up at a berm, that's fine. Starts to shield the building more. There's layers of things that start happening, but what's going on as this building meets the adjoining properties? Are there large retaining walls, or what's going on at the edges of this?
I don't believe we are using retaining walls. At the edges, the whole site is gradually sloping, and that's what we're following. It's just over the course of 1,200 roughly feet. It's a gradual slope.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe to the naked eye, it's going to look like a flat site.
Right.
From Indian Canyon. It's as deceiving. If you went out there today and looked at it with your naked eye, you would say that's a flat site.
Well, I mean, I'm an architect and I deal with these things all the time. And it's helpful to know that the building itself is sloping, so that the finished floor inside the building is sloping. And that over those long distances does help a lot, right? Because we're trying to deal with a flat pad very often. So that's helping. I'm seeing it's 4% at the northern truck trailer parking, and it looks like it's a little over 3% at the southern end. So if what you guys are saying is there are no retaining walls, then that's good enough for me. Big building, 30 feet of grade change. Typically, we're going to have 15 feet on one end and 15 feet on the other, and
No, it's a fair question. It's a long site along Indian Canyon, so it's deceiving to the eye.
Yep.
But it's
I think the biggest challenge I have, and we can talk about this in discussion, but it's part of what you guys can talk to. The heat island effect of all of this parking on that large area, it feels massive. And to my mind, I'm just wondering, 700 employees up to 1,000 employees, this feels like the kind of occupation that goes away with automation. The employees go away, the trucks come without people, everything happens without people. And are we going to be saddled with the building that has all of this parking when, if the truck and trailer's coming automated, we're not worried about a couple of inches sliding past another truck trailer? Those programs will figure out how to do that, right? So they're going to get them in much more compact areas. They're going to be able to do this at hours of the day and operations that humans just aren't well suited for. So I'm just looking at this thing and thinking, do we really need that much parking? The truck trailer staging, the parking for employees. And I don't know that you guys can answer it, but if I'm the city, I'm going to want to guide you to a balanced parking and more inert material, more open space, and just spending less on paving and less on, the environmental impacts of a large building like this.
I would, not to project Amazon onto this building, but if you think about Amazon as one of the more advanced in that automation, and we do a lot of work for them, there is a lot of automation in those buildings, but it doesn't, that can't do the entire job.
Yet.
Yeah, yet. And there still is a need, and if you'll notice at the Amazon facilities, they just have tons of parking. There are tons of people that are still needed in these facilities. So we're not at a point where it can be done without employees. But I think, as an industry, that is something that we're going to have real estate available if that does happen, and new challenges to try and tackle what to do with this space. And is it more like EV charging lots? We have clients that are inputting a lot of EV charging stations instead of gas stations, and this might be a candidate for that. But it's up to us to come with some creative solutions for what to do with that real estate when the time comes.
The other thing is, I think if it becomes sort of apparent to whoever the tenant is or whoever the ultimate owner, that we're not using a portion of the parking lot, it's going to be a lot easier to introduce landscaping and less maintenance to reduce the parking lot. But the city has mandatory requirements for employee parking based on a certain size of warehouse at this time. So I do, and the idea of automation has been brought up really since we started here with the city, and I think probably it's coming. We don't know exactly what it'll look like, but it will be the responsibility of the tenant and or the owner to deal with it aesthetically at the time, if it means a change. So I don't really have a magic formula of what to do with what is needed
No,
today.
I don't think it really is out of your hands, and I think it would be in the city manager and in the elected officials to stage a portion of this. So let's just say there's 700 employees, but when ground's broken on this and it's open for business, there's 500 employees, and the next year there's 450, and then 400. I don't know if we can help you out and help our environment out by saying, let's eliminate 200 spaces, turn it into inert gravel with tree wells. I don't know what that would be.
Every developer would do that in a minute.
Exactly,
it's-
and I'm trying to help
and I
do
think-
something that's not creating unintended consequence here.
You know, I think the city, in its wisdom, over time, can come up with those.
But once you spend the money on the compacted, base for your parking, then you put either concrete down or asphalted concrete. You've spent the money, and at that point, I'm not you, but I wouldn't care, right? Like, I've got the parking, I've got it striped, I'm watering the trees, it's going. I now have spent that capital. 15 years from now, I may be saying, well, we have to resurface this. And I might be saying at that point, hey, can we take some of this out of there? But I would like to get you there before you have to. And I just don't know how to do that.
Well, keep in mind that this has been reviewed by the planning commission and the city councilor, and the site plan is set.
All right, so the site plan is set. So, well, we thank you. I'm sure there'll be other discussion items that come up. Could we have any members of the public that would like to talk on this
Thank you.
item?
Other- yep.
Frank, the other one here, that one there.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Who are you?
My name is Frank Tyson. I'm president of the ABCD, Advocates for Better Community Development. I'm also, I've been a hotelier for many years, restoring the oldest boutique hotel in Palm Springs called Casa Cody. And I've been an environmental activist. So anyway, I first want to make some general comments. This is only the tip of the iceberg. And this is actually a miniature event because I've seen the plans and the intentions for much of the past and our surroundings, and it's going to be a goddamn nightmare of warehouses. I've done a number of articles for the paper, and every time I get an incredible amount of emails from the public, people really are concerned about it. They've seen the 215, which is a nightmare. And unfortunately, we are a tourist community and we're surrounded by national parks. And so we should have a different ethos here. Now, ironically, the city of Fontana, which started with Kaiser Steel, is basically an industrial city, just voted, the council had the balls to vote no on a warehouse. And Riverside just came out with the toughest enforcement of Title 19, which deals with setbacks. So, I'd like to see, I hope that we eventually, or sooner or later, become the leaders as an environmental town and try to take this program, to take the resistance regionally, because we may not be a tourist community anymore. People don't want to go and drive by miles and miles of warehouses, and all you have to do is take a trip on 215. You know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we started district elections, which has not given us very bright councils because the pool is much smaller in a small town. Oh, and besides, it's not very democratic. Each person only gets to vote for one council member. And the first district election council opened up the door for the warehouses. They changed the rules. The rules.
Frank, you have 30 seconds.
What do you mean?
You have 30 seconds.
Now, he had a long time. Can you give me a little more time?
3 minutes. You've got 30 seconds.
All right. That's not the
You've got other people who want to speak also.
But anyway, okay, I'll get back to the thing. I didn't have a chance to give you copies, but I will get you copies of the piece of work by the Nature Conservancy, the tremendous beneficial impact of lots of high-sized leafy trees on the combating the pollution, which will obviously be one of the big problems. Should that, and you may have a discussion with him, but it really will be worth it to both for the aesthetics and for health to have high massive. I just want to mention.
Frank, we're talking about architecture tonight, so you need to wrap it up.
Mission, and anyway, I will supply you with the information too, that it should have been handled differently in terms of the sequence. Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Any other,
Are there other people here in the audience who would like to speak? Okay.
anybody online?
There's some people in the waiting room here on Zoom. Are any of the people that are in the waiting room here on Zoom wanting to speak tonight? If you are, would you please raise your hand in the Zoom system? Anybody wishing to speak from Zoom, please raise your hand. It appears we have no other speakers, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Malacher, can we go to the elevations, or at least the best representation of the colors and materials? All right. Let's just kind of, Ms. Bastian, do you have any comments on the architecture, colors, materials?
I like it. I think it's pretty. I think it's way better than the Skechers building. But it's still, after hearing the comments, it still does feel like a big block of something off the freeway that you see that is just not pleasing. So I battle with bringing business to where we live and also making it environmentally, appealing and great for employees and efficient. But structurally, I think it's pretty. I think they did a good job with the materials they used and the landscaping.
Thank you. Member Thompson.
I do have concerns about the environment and the impact of the large warehouses going there, but from what I understand, our job today is to look at the architecture and the colors, and I think for a large warehouse, it's actually attractive. And I like the green color on it, actually. I know that the city council had concerns about that it's not blends into the environment, but I do think that it does with the green. There is green in our desert as well, so I'm pleased with it.
Thank you. Member McDonald, any further comments?
No. Well, overall, I think it's a very nice building. I think it looks really good. The Skechers thing, what I was talking about was just the front-facing public part. It was extraordinarily well done. Of course, obviously, the building is colossal and huge, but the very front end, where the public comes to do things and whatever, is pretty much amazing. Amazing on many levels. I think the building's very handsome. I think it'll look great there. The area it sits in, there is a lot of stuff going on there. There's like those big, looks like cracking towers down the street from the Edison place. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I think it's fine for where it's at, I don't have any other comments. I think it's these are the times we live in where we have to have these things, because everybody orders stuff. So you know. So I think, no, I think it's, I think it will look really nice.
Thank you, Member McDonald. Mr. Malacher, can I have you go to perspective view at Dock Corner? Yeah. And can I get the architect to come up and answer a couple of questions? So if we reference the Skechers building, I always play a little game as I go by that, and I look at my odometer, and I'm on the freeway, and I'm going 70 miles an hour, and, you know, I'll click off almost a mile just looking at that. And what works on that building is that they've articulated the, did your guys' office do that?
No, we don't
Okay.
have.
They've articulated the pieces of it so that you get pieces that are three-dimensionally sticking out at you. And so that creates a rhythm, which then creates, I think, what Mr. McDonald is referring to as pleasant. And I don't disagree. I like the fact that the masses are moving and that you get, even though it's the same mass over and over and over, that rhythm is nice. Here, what you're doing well on the east and the west is you're taking part of that tilt-up concrete and you're pushing it in. So I'll reference the area right behind that van, right where that car is nose in. So where that car is nosed in, that panel is pushed in. However, on the north and south, where the trucks are, those panels are just paint. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about why it's appropriate just to use paint to articulate a long facade there. And yeah, just comment on why paint's appropriate there.
Yeah, again, this kind of goes back to the efficient design of these buildings and what's going on inside. So form is following function here because all these trailers are pulling up into the same plane and they're unloading, and that function all needs to be linear within the building so that each stall has clean access to the pallets that are coming in and out of these trucks. Forklifts often are prone to hitting things, so if there's angles on buildings, if there's equipment inside, this first bay of the building where these trucks unload is very clean and clear, and a lot of traffic moving around. So that's kind of what dictates this flatter facade. And what we often have to do on these buildings is come up with colors that break up the flatness, and I think we're showing some form liner, which has a little texture to the facade as well. But that flatness is really important to the function and layout of the building.
Okay, so I think I could argue that function is important from 14 feet down, and we've got another 36 feet above us. Can you start to articulate that, I won't call it a cornice line, but the top of your parapet? Can that green band be brought down 24 inches?
Yeah, it theoretically could, yeah.
How else might you suggest that it's articulated above the 14-foot height?
Could they add those, the same pop-out window edges on the back that they have on the front?
What are those windows going to? Those upper windows? Is that offices up there, or is it mezzanine space?
It's just clear story windows to bring light into the warehouse and also to add interest on the facade.
Okay. But there's no technical use or clerical use or mezzanine space up there? So they're daylighting. All right. Typically in a small building, I'd argue that the heat gain is going to be impactful, but in something with this volume, yeah, it's just. So solar control would be a good thing, but I would, and maybe we'll make it a part of whatever motion that we make, but there can be a way to do this, and I would hope that you guys just wouldn't always default to, this is where the trucks are, so we don't touch it. Because that really is, there's a datum in here, a horizontal datum at a line where your form liners are going, that above that, things could move around. And I realize that in tilt-up concrete that, pushing a wall in 4 inches has some, detailing and some expense to it. But it's a large building. One of the things that we're going to face as a community is this color's going to look good for about 4 months, and these heavily saturated colors will start to fade quickly. So really what our community is left with is whatever shade and shadow we can get out of moving masses around. Right? Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a paint program where, somebody's going to go out there and paint it every couple of years. But these are harsh environments, that south side particularly, that paint, it's just not going to last. And you can put the most robust paint in there, but once it's highly saturated with color in our sun and in that environment, it's just not going to last. So, yeah. The attention that you're putting on the east and west is really appreciated. It breaks down the masses, you see a sense of rhythm. The corners at the front, that they have a sense of human scale, although I would almost argue that those people are dwarfed there. But, it's a 50-foot building, and you guys are doing your best to try to create human scale. I'd talk a little bit about the neighbor development. Are you guys doing the project next door? And are you doing, no, so nobody knows anything what's going on? Okay, because I'm just wondering about what this looks like massing here versus the next project, but probably too early to tell. I too think the colors are good, but my comments stand about, heavily saturated colors. They're just, it's going to take a reapplication of paint to, keep them at the, the tone that you have, which is good, right? And I wouldn't water it down on day one just so that it doesn't fade. I think the form liners are good where you're getting that horizontal texture. So overall, I think we're pretty close. Does anybody want to? Well, let's have a motion if anybody wants to formulate one.
I make a motion to approve it as is with conditions, conditions to change the Acacia salicina to Casuarina equisitiformis she oak, and to change the Parkinsonia to Eucalyptus microtheca.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay, I would like to add to the motion that parapet line on the north and south of the building is brought up some change in that horizontal line by a minimum of 18 inches. Is that okay with the motion maker?
I agree.
Okay. Glenn, do you need any further definition of what we're talking about here?
Right, I think I understand the landscaping request, and you are focusing on the green stripe area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the green stripe rhythm areas, wherever those are occurring.
Right, we understand.
Okay. And if the architect can go back to his team and say, you know what, we could do a little bit with this. There was a good point brought up about the colors fading, and we're looking at a great render, and, in a couple of years, it might not look as great, but the shadow will always be there. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We've got Mr. Lyon.
I heard a couple of other comments about the landscape, that you were looking for a bit more buffer between the outdoor lunch area and the parking lot. And there was also a question about whether you wanted to see additional landscaping along the south side of the truck bays. Is that still something that's part of this motion, or are you comfortable without those?
I'm comfortable without those, yeah.
Okay, motion and a second. Let's have a roll call vote.
Member Baston. Member Thompson. Member McDonald.
Yes.
And Chair O'Donnell.
Yes, all right.
4-0.
Yes, the project carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We will,
Appreciate that. All right. Architecture Committee reports, requests, comments. Does any of the members have any reports, comments?
I guess maybe just to bring this up, I guess we're going to be seeing more of these larger entities coming up, possibly.
So right now, we have another warehouse development that is adjacent to this project that is in, it had a 45-day EIR public comment review. It was extended another 20 days. There'll have to be some work done, and it'll be a hearing before the Planning Commission, could be April or May. And eventually it'll come back to the ARC, just like this one, for building design and landscaping. But we will make sure they know what your comments were for this one. We're trying to keep them consistent.
Yeah, and if you can just share with the planning director, is there any way to have a variance in parking requirements? Just the environmental heat island, automation, yeah, these projects going forward, if I'm the developer, I do want to say 700 employees, but the reality is 10 years from now, I'd be surprised if it's, even the guy with the mop is going to be a little robot. So, yeah.
I think, Mr. Chair, there's some moderation in parking that can be handled through an administrative minor modification. I think the parking could be reduced by about 10%, but at least it's something.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good start. And then if we can just chip away with it with Planning Commission and Council. I do have a comment. I did float the idea of the vacancy to another landscape architect so that you've got a second set of eyes, and I think that would be, greatly appreciated. Did you get any applications in yet?
I haven't seen any, but I know that the HR was going to, or the city clerk was going to post the positions as being open, so I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. All right. So if you guys know anybody qualified, designer, landscape architect, please ask them to apply. Planning director is not here, so Ken, any reports on your end?
The only thing I want to mention, those of you that are going to be in town next Saturday morning, there is a symposium at the Art Museum in which we'll be, each of us that have participated in the new Palm Springs School of Architecture book will be sharing a lecture on that, and there'll be other information about that book. It's kind of a very exciting book that Alan Hess has authored, and it really begins to formalize what we've been seeing happen here over the last 60 or 80 years. So we're looking forward to that.
And is there a cost?
There is a cost. It's through the Modernism Week website, and I do not know what that cost is off the top of my head, but if you go to Modernism Week to their list of events, it is listed there.
And it's in the Annenberg?
It's in the Annenberg Theater at the Palm Springs Art Museum.
Okay.
I believe it starts at 9:30.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's adjourn the meeting at 6:56. Thank you.
Thank you.